Chewie! Did you hear the news? That's right. This weekend, Disney Plus is finally releasing the Brandy Whitney Houston Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella, also known as the best Cinderella movie of all time. Hey, Tui, that is a great idea. Let's go online and see if everyone else is as excited as we are. Okay? Yeah, okay, we need to talk. Welcome to Teacup for One. My name is Matt and I have 2 degrees, and truth be told, this video actually isn't going to be about the Brandy Whitney Houston Cinderella because I've already done a video explaining why that is the greatest Cinderella movie of all time. Link below in the description and up above on something clickable. But today I'm going to be talking about another live-action Disney princess movie which has yet to be released. The live-action remake of Disney's animated classic, The Little Mermaid. You know the movie I'm talking about. The one that almost broke the internet last summer with one single casting announcement. One casting announcement that caused the best and the absolute worst of humanity to just bubble up from the deep, dark depths of the internet. And that casting announcement was, of course, Awkwafina as Scuttle. That's not where you thought I was going with this, was it? No, don't worry. I am actually going to be talking about Halle Bailey being cast as Ariel just later on in the video. Let me get there. Although I will say that all the backlash of Halle Bailey's casting as Ariel, the unjustified backlash, we'll get there, all the backlash against Halle Bailey as Ariel overshadowed the brilliant casting choice of Awkwafina as Scuttle. And I just want to take a moment to shine a light on why Awkwafina being cast as Scuttle is such a brilliant move for so many reasons. This is actually my second video about Disney's history with non-traditional casting. If you missed the first video, I'm going to link it for you in the description below and in a clickable thing up above. But that video was very focused on Disney's history with non-traditional casting on Broadway, and how Disney has this really great history of either rewriting roles for their stage adaptations completely, or casting actors who might look different from how the character was portrayed in the movie that the show is based on. And as a quick refresher, non-traditional casting is the practice of hiring an actor who might be a different race, ethnicity, or gender from how the character they're portraying has typically been portrayed in the past. And it's something that Disney has done on Broadway a fair bit. We had Toni Braxton playing Belle in Beauty and the Beast, Ryan Redmond making history as the first female Olaf in Frozen on Broadway. We had Aisha Jackson playing Anna in Broadway. It's a refreshingly long list. Of course, it could be a longer list, but you know, I'm an optimist, especially when it comes to Disney, and I think it's awesome that there's a list like this at all, because it opens doors to more long-lasting representation, like in the movies. Now, if I'm being honest, I am one of those people that really doesn't care for the live-action remakes at all, just on principle. I would rather that time and that money be dedicated to creating exciting and new movies, but of course, I'm still going to see them. And I do find that as time goes on, and as we get more of these live-action remakes, Disney is realizing that the way to truly make them work is to cut more ties with the original and let the remakes be their own thing. And that is why I am so excited for the upcoming live-action remake of The Little Mermaid. Because here's the thing, there is no reason to remake a movie if you're not going to remake the movie. I mean, aside from making millions of dollars, but we're talking artistically here, okay? A remake is the opportunity to revisit a story and a collection of characters and to touch on certain plot points and story elements that the original movie might have glossed over or missed entirely. My whole philosophy with these live-action remakes is that they need to honor the original film while still taking their place as their own original thing. And this is why I think Awkwafina is a brilliant choice for Scuttle. As I'm sure you already know, but I'm going to remind you, Scuttle was originally voiced by Buddy Hackett, one of the greatest comedians of all time. He was a one-of-a-kind personality, and that was what made Scuttle so unique and memorable. It is a performance that nobody could or should try to recreate.
Dingle hopper.
Because when you try to imitate somebody else's organic performance and take on their nuances, it just comes off really flat, awkward, and unfunny. The key to funny is being yourself. So then that begs the question, how do you go about recasting a role that was originally shaped and made iconic by a 65-year-old Jewish American man? Easy. You cast a 30-year-old Chinese American woman. Now, on the surface, Awkwafina and Buddy Hackett are not two people that you would ever expect to share a role because they are so different. But in a lot of ways, they're also kind of similar. They're both New Yorkers, they're both comedians, they both have a very distinct voice, and they both have a very blunt, dry edge to their comedy.
I'm sure you're all pure vegetarian and don't eat meat or anything like that, and you're so worried I hope a butterfly flies up your nose and you choke to death.
After New York, where would you say you feel most at home?
Probably an abandoned school bus hurling insults at trees.
And that is why she is such a brilliant choice for Scuttle. She has such a similar spirit to Buddy, but she is so uniquely herself at the same time, and she's going to take that role and make it her own. And going back to what I said in my first video, just think about how that relationship between Scuttle and Ariel is going to change by having Scuttle played by a younger female. With Buddy Hackett, Scuttle was kind of like the wacky uncle, but with Awkwafina, she's probably going to become like the wacky older sister, which is so weirdly perfect for the Little Mermaid. And I want to point out that all the reasons for Awkwafina being the perfect person to succeed Buddy Hackett as Scuttle have nothing to do with her race and everything to do with who she is as a performer. And that is why non-traditional casting is so important. It has nothing to do with catering to a PC agenda like the tweets or the Facebook comments would have you believe. It has everything to do with finding the best actor for a given role and not limiting your choices to finding that actor based on race, ethnicity, or gender. If we did that, the only person working in Hollywood right now who'd be able to play Scuttle would be Harvey Fierstein. Actually, Harvey Fierstein would have been an incredible Scuttle. But you know what? It doesn't matter, because so will Awkwafina. And even though her heritage has nothing to do with why she'll be such a good Scuttle, it is still a huge deal for representation. Because deny it all you want, internet, representation still matters. Just watch this clip of Awkwafina describing her experiences watching an Asian American audience watching her movie Crazy Rich Asians.
So, Crazy Rich Asians was the first Hollywood movie with an all-Asian cast in 25 years. What did that feel like to be a part of?
I think when we were out there filming it, we knew that we were part of something special, but to what extent, we had no idea. It wasn't until we came back and we would sit through these screenings and see these kids come out crying, because that is the power of representation. You don't realize how important it is until you realize you've been missing it your whole life. So yeah, it was really special.
They were crying because of Crazy Rich Asians, a rom-com. Like, how many rom-coms leave people that emotional? But then I guess the other question is, how often is it that you have to wait 25 years to see an entire movie led by a cast that looks like you? So it doesn't matter, young, old, everyone wants to see themselves represented on screen, and everyone deserves to see themselves represented, especially kids. And I actually think that that's why Aladdin is so meaningful to a lot of people around my age. And I know Aladdin does have a lot of problems associated with it, which merit a separate discussion, a separate video, but when you're a kid, that's not something you think about. When I was a kid, Aladdin was my favorite movie. It came out when I was around 5 or 6 years old, and I didn't give any thought about why it was my favorite movie, it just was. But looking back, it makes total sense. I loved Disney. All of my favorite movies were the Disney fairy tale movies, and they always had a female lead character. But then I saw Aladdin, and it was a classic Disney fairy tale that had a male protagonist who just happened to look as ethnically ambiguous as me. And I think a lot of people had similar experiences, including Broadway's original Jasmine, Courtney Reed.
My name is Courtney Reed, and I play Princess Jasmine in Aladdin on Broadway. I remember Princess Jasmine being the first princess that I saw with skin color the same as mine, with long dark hair. They came from a different ethnic background. She was so special to me from the get-go.
And after Aladdin, Disney finally started to diversify the types of characters that they were putting into their animated features, which was great. But it also meant that an entire movie had to be about a given culture in order for its characters to be anything other than Caucasian. And in a movie where the story wasn't driven by a specific culture, the characters were just white by default. Just think about it. Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Rapunzel, Ariel. Yep, here we go. So, on July 3rd, 2019, Disney officially announced that Halle Bailey had been cast as Ariel in Rob Marshall's live-action remake of The Little Mermaid. And everyone's initial reaction to this news was, Halle Berry? Isn't she a little old? And then, after everyone put on their reading glasses and realized that it was not Halle Berry, but was in fact Halle Bailey, everyone was really happy about it. No, I'm serious. Some people were really happy because of what this meant for representation. One of the most classic Disney princesses was being brought to life by a black actor. Others were happy because Disney had cast an incredible singer as the princess who is defined by having the most beautiful voice in the world. And other people were happy because they were able to use this as an excuse to justify their racism. So, there was a lot of really aggressive backlash, like the trending hashtag NotMyAriel, alongside a slew of unforgivable and frankly disgusting tweets and comments. But what I found even more disturbing was the casual racism that started to emerge. Just reading the comment sections on different Facebook groups where people had posted the article announcing Halle Bailey's casting. And I'm going to read some of those comments to you right now. I love people of color, but Ariel is my favorite character, and they're ruining my imaginations. This is my favorite Disney movie and my all-time favorite character. I have loved Ariel ever since I was a little girl. I grew up watching this over and over again. I've been dying for the action movie to come out. I'm assuming she meant live action movie, unless Ariel is going to be an action star and there's going to be like a massive shootout scene. That would be amazing. But I think she meant live action. Anyway, where was I? Oh, I can tell you right now, I'll be saving my money on this one. No way am I sitting in the theater to see this as Ariel. Super disappointed. This is not even close to the character I loved and grew up with. The stories, all my puzzles, pictures, and coloring books. Anyone that wants to start calling me racist, don't bother. Or go ahead and judge me. I loved Aladdin as a kid as well. I enjoyed Mulan. I've watched The Princess and the Frog many times over and over with my own daughter. But this is not Ariel. Ariel is a young, extremely pale, very soft, red-headed girl. Stop messing with the classics. So disappointed I can't get over it. I agree with many others. She would have made an awesome Ursula. I don't even know what that means. No, my childhood is ruined. Defeated face, distressed face, uncomfortable face.
Sad face, really sad face, angry sad face, uncomfortably angry sad face,
and Pinocchio. Okay, Pinocchio face, listen. If the act of employing a young black actor to play a fictional mermaid is ruining your childhood at the age of 39, you had a pretty good childhood. Next, they aren't burning the original movie. It's still there for you because you know what? This movie is not for you. This movie is for the kids. But then again, you do have to grow up, so maybe it is for you. Who knows? Jeez, you're almost as bad as a Star Wars fan. Okay, moving on. Okay, now this is an argument that comes up a lot. Buckle up. Very disappointed in Ariel. And no, it's not because she's black. That actress is beautiful, but Ariel is iconic with her red hair. Crying emoji. They would never make a live-action Princess and the Frog and cast Tiana as a white blonde woman. Shrug emoji. Ironically, it's a white blonde woman shrug emoji. Okay, there's a ton more comments, but they're all variations on this same theme. The whole argument that you would never cast a white actress as Tiana, therefore you shouldn't cast a black actress as Ariel. And you know what? Much like Ariel through half of The Little Mermaid, that argument does not have legs to stand on. And here's why. Tiana is a black woman in 1920s America. Her identity, the story of the film, the entire movie is about that. The experience of a young, black, unmarried woman living in America in the early 20th century. Tiana needs to be black for that story to work, for that movie to have any kind of payoff, for that movie to be a movie. Ariel has no cultural identity outside of being a mermaid. Riddle me this, where does Princess and the Frog take place? Down in New Orleans. There's an entire song about it. Now, where does The Little Mermaid take place? I'll cut to the chase. Literally no one knows, because in the animated movie, they never say where they are. And this is one of those examples I was talking about earlier on in the video, where Caucasian just becomes the default for any fairy tale character that doesn't have a specific cultural identity. And so that's why there is in fact validity to this argument that you can have black actors portraying, air quotes, white roles, but it doesn't go in both directions. And the fact of the matter is that that's because there is an imbalance in the sheer number of roles that are traditionally portrayed as white characters. And more often than not, if a character has traditionally been portrayed by a black actor, it's because that character needs to be black for the purposes of the story. You actually see something very similar with Shakespeare, because the majority of the really great Shakespearean roles were written for men. So over the past few decades, theater companies have really dug into non-traditional casting practices to give female actors the chance to play some of those really great, meaty Shakespearean roles like Hamlet, Richard III, or Julius Caesar. But talking about Disney, what is Ariel's defining characteristic? And do not say the red hair, even though fan art has proven to us that Halle Bailey would look incredible with red hair. No. Ariel's defining characteristic, going all the way back to Hans Christian Andersen's original text, is her voice. So the one thing that you should be concerned with is, can Halle Bailey sing? Well, let's see.
Unforgettable, that's what you are. Unforgettable, though near or far.
She is going to be so good. Okay, and finally, the last argument that I've seen more than once are people saying, oh, I don't mind the casting, but how are the kids supposed to understand that Ariel in one movie is a black woman and in another movie is portrayed as a white woman? And here's what I have to say to that. Stop using the kids as your excuse to be a racist. Kids are smarter than you seem to be giving them credit for. Yes, of course they have a wide-eyed belief in magic, but they also have the capacity for understanding that film and theater is a form of professional make-believe. That is an important distinction that needs to be made. There is a difference between the characters that you meet in the parks and the characters as you see them on screen and on stage. When we're talking about the parks, yes, 100%. Those face characters need to be the spitting image of their animated counterparts. But the movies and the stage shows are an entirely different animal. As far as I'm concerned, that is where you introduce kids to the magic of theater. That's where you make the distinction to them that these aren't the characters. These are people pretending to be the characters. And then you open up their understanding to the magic of theater and the arts, which is clearly something that I'm very passionate about. And that's why I think it is so wonderful to see non-traditional casting practices with Disney on Broadway. And the really great thing is that over the past few years, they've started moving those practices into the theme park shows. In 2016, Frozen Live at the Hyperion opened at Disney's California Adventure. It was a 1-hour Broadway-style musical based on Disney's Frozen, directed by Tony Award-nominated director Liesl Tommy. And like most theme park shows, it would run up to 5 times a day. which meant that they had to have a rotating cast of different performers. Now, the big and bold and beautiful move that director Liesl Tommy made was that she filled that cast with diversity. There was a person of color hired for almost every lead role in the show. Now, in theory, it seems like a great move, but the sad reality is that no matter how many steps you try to take forward, there's always going to be somebody trying to pull you back. Cooper Howell was one of the actors who was originally hired to play Hans in Frozen Live at the Hyperion. And last year, he took to Facebook and he wrote a very detailed post about his experiences in that production. And it is truly something that needs to be read in full that I can't do justice to repeating myself, so I am going to link the post for you in the description down below. The basic gist of his experience is that working with Liesl Tommy to create the production originally was a dream come true, and one where he felt like he was being valued for his talent. But once the production opened and Liesl Tommy went back to New York, Disney brought in a resident director, which is common practice, and all of a sudden he wasn't being valued for his talent anymore. He was being put under a microscope and devalued for the color of his skin. For someone who loves Disney as much as I do, it's a very difficult read, but it's an important one, because I think it perfectly illustrates where we stand right now on this whole issue, which is that we are divided. On one side, we have people who want to move forward and who are all for inclusion, but then on the other side, we have people who are just conditioned inherently to fight against it and to grasp at straws to try to justify what is blatant racism. And the really unfortunate thing is that when it comes to this conversation about Disney and non-traditional casting, one of the things that comes up time and time again is people saying, I'm not worried for me, I'm upset because it's confusing for the children. But the children don't care. It's the adults who care, and then they condition the next generation of children to care, which is why non-traditional casting with Disney is that much more important, because it is showing the next generation that anyone can be a princess. Yeah, like, what do you think is going to happen, Karen? Is the movie going to come out and then you're going to tell your little 5-year-old kid that no, you're not allowed to see the new Little Mermaid movie because Ariel's not allowed to be black? Of course not. At least I hope, of course not. No, what's going to happen is that you are going to take your kid to see that movie. You are going to keep your prejudices to yourself, and your kid is going to watch the film and fall in love with the music, the story, and the princess, just like you did at that age. And then, Walt willing, you'll have to clutch your pearls when another movie comes out using non-traditional casting practices, and then eventually that will just become the norm instead of the exception, and we'll be slowly moving society into a direction where we're more accepting of Black mermaid princesses. Anyway, friends, this concludes yet another episode of Teacup for One. Let me know in the comment section down below, which character are you the most excited to see brought to life in the new live-action Little Mermaid movie? And if you're not subscribed to the channel, but you want to keep up to date with my thoughts on upcoming Disney films, or just watch me talk about Funkos, sometimes Shakespeare, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. You got another chance coming up right now. All you have to do is click on my face. Thanks for joining me today, everyone. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and that's the T Cup for One. Go away.